I forgot a few hours before the fight, Donald Trump called me and told me I got knocked this Russian motherfucker out because they're making him look bad on the news. You know, him and Putin and shit. Fuck what they talking about, USA and this whole fuck.
This is Johnny and Jose with TigerBomb MMA, and today we'll be going over UFC 265, Lewis versus Gane. But we've got an interesting main event for the interim heavyweight title, which came out of nowhere. Just a couple weeks ago it was announced, and it just seems like they're really trying to push Cyril Gane to fight Ngannou to have that teammate versus teammate fight. But we'll see if Derrick Lewis can maybe even finally get his hands on UFC gold. But we'll start off the card with a bout at bantamweight. We've got a rebooked fight. This fight was supposed to happen a couple times before, but one of the competitors got injured. It's a Johnny Munoz Jr. versus Jamie Simmons. It was actually Jamie Simmons who got injured a couple times. The thing is, he had a rib injury, which prevented him from competing. But at this very moment, we have the odds at minus 230 for Munoz to come back on Jamie Simmons, plus 190. My initial pick was Munoz because I still think he's the overall better fighter, and that's not changed. Knowing that Simmons has had that rib injury, that's going to be a target for Munoz to attack. Both of these guys are grapplers. Jamie Simmons is a pretty strong wrestler. He wrestled out of, I believe, Wisconsin, if I remember correctly. And yeah, out of the University of Wisconsin. And his primary game is ground and pound, getting on the ground, high amplitude takedowns, very strong guy. He will be the stronger man in the cage between the two. But for Johnny Munoz, the thing that I like about him is even though he made his UFC debut against Nathan Maness and he lost that, even though I still think he should have won that fight, he was very aggressive with the takedowns. He consistently got takedowns on Maness, consistently had good positions on him. He's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. Looking at his Instagram, I haven't seen him in a while, of course, because these fights aren't getting, they keep getting rebooked, but it looks like he's working on his striking. It's a tough little Mexican guy. Kid Fenbo is his nickname versus the Afro Samurai. I just like Johnny Munoz. It's hard to say at that price tag, minus 230, because we haven't seen him in a while. And we don't know what the improvements have been, especially when he's fighting with a really strong wrestler. But I think he should be and will be the better fighter that night. As for Jamie Simmons, I don't want to say he doesn't belong to UFC. He made his debut against Giga Chikadze. That's a tough task to get asked, like, hey, you want to make your debut short notice against Giga Chikadze? Kind of sucks, but it is what it is. He got into the UFC. It just sucks that I don't see him winning this fight. Hopefully they throw him a bone, give him someone outside the top 100, and hopefully he can get a win. But I do have Johnny Munoz to win this one. I will say by a third round submission. I think he'll be able to tire out Jamie Simmons and maybe take his back and get a rear naked choke in the third.
I agree. I don't have too much more to add to this fight. I think Johnny will. I'm actually taking Johnny by decision here. I don't foresee too much action on the feet. I think they're going to be more takedowns. I think that's really what's going to decide the fight. Looking at maybe 2-3 takedowns per round. So Johnny might get 10 takedowns this fight, depending on how fast Jamie can get up, or if he's just kind of a turtle on his back. So I think I'm looking at maybe at least 6 takedowns in this fight by Johnny to get that decision. Don't see either guy finishing the other. I would say the odds are a little too high on this one. I would say minus 140 for Johnny, plus 130, plus 140 for Jamie would be a little bit more appropriate. I'm not sure why this one's juiced this way.
Our next bout at bantamweight, we've got the return of the great Draco Rodriguez versus Vince Vendetta Morales. The current odds have it minus 145 for Rodriguez, come back on Morales plus 120. This fight is a lot closer. I honestly should be a pick 'em between these two guys, mainly because we saw what happened with Draco Rodriguez. He pulled a massive stunt against Ayman Zahabi. That was his debut in the UFC after having a pretty solid and honestly very impressive debut in the Contender Series, where he submitted Mana Martinez with a triangle choke. Very unexpected because I think he's 2-0 in boxing. So you would think he would probably get a knockout in the Contender Series. But no, he submits him with a really slick triangle choke, puts him out cold. Then now he's fighting Ayman Zahabi, and he did not look like a guy who has pro boxing in his repertoire. He looked stiff, and then he got caught with that overhand right. It almost seemed more mental than anything. And for Vince Morales, the thing about Vince is that, yeah, he's on a 2-fight losing streak. He lost to Benito Lopez. He lost to Chris Gutierrez via leg kicks, but Chris Gutierrez kicks fucking hard. And what are you going to do? Your legs give out. So on paper, it doesn't look like it's going to be a close fight. But honestly, I think Vince Morales, he's a dog in there. And I know he won't be having any mental lapses like Draco Rodriguez. So I think it's going to be a lot closer. And I personally think it's a pick 'em. But I will still go with Draco, primarily because I think he is the more well-rounded fighter. I think he is more polished. It's just that he has to show up in the fight. He is a younger guy. He's 25 compared to 30 for Vince Morales. And Vince is not me saying he's an older guy. He's still in the game. He's still solid. He's still tough. It's just that I think Draco's just the more well-rounded fighter. It's just, again, he has to show up. I'm staying away from this one completely, but I do have Rodriguez to win this one. I will say a decision. If he shows up again in the first round, very tentative, very stiff, it could easily go round number 1 for Morales, just being the more dog of a guy. And then Draco kind of wakes up in the later rounds, round number 2, round number 3, and edges out that decision. Just getting his feet wet in the UFC, getting knocked out. I don't know how he's going to fare up in his second fight. He may not look as good anymore. We don't know, but we'll see. But I still think if he shows up ready to fight, he should win this one by a unanimous decision.
Yeah, this one is a pick'em fight in my opinion. I don't see either guy having a bigger, any big advantage over the other. Both guys are coming off losses. I want to say Morales actually has more experience at this point. Even though his record doesn't show it, I think he's got the better experience of the two. He's got four UFC fights under his belt. Funny enough, he actually beat the lesser Zahabi. Meanwhile, on the other side of the coin, Draco does, he lost to Zahabi in the first round. What was it, 5 months ago or so? And so it's hard to play, MMA math here. But I think at this point, despite the records, I'm actually taking the underdog here, Vince Morales. I think he's got, like I said, his experience trumps Draco's at this point, even though I don't think he's got, a big advantage over him. I think that, having been in the octagon several more times, I think this makes this probably a better deal. I mean, I'd stay away from it personally. But if you're willing to take a shot, I'd say Vince Morales is the side. I don't foresee him knocking out or submitting Dracolini. So I'll take a shot with Vince Morales as the underdog here.
Our next bout at women's flyweight, we've got a bout between Victoria Fury Leonardo and Melissa Gatto. The odds currently have it -140 for Gatto, the comeback on Leonardo, +120. And I have to say, I did more research on this fight than on anyone else on the card. And I've got a couple things to highlight. Is that this fight it's going to be close. And I really don't know who's going to win this one. Most of the time I have an idea. I'm like, okay, I see a clear path to victory for this one. I see a clear path to victory for this one. This one's a coin flip because although the odds have it that Melissa Gatto is a favorite, the only reason she's a favorite is because she submitted Carol Rosa 2 years ago. And as we know, Carol Rosa is in the UFC now. She's doing fairly well in her division. It's just that when you actually see her fights, you're kind of scratching your head. You're like, what, huh? For Leonardo, she came into the UFC after beating up Chelsea Hackett, who was 3-0, 3-0-1 in her MMA career. And all she did, because Chelsea Hackett was a kickboxer, she eventually took her down and just pounded her ass out. And then they gave her Menifield as a debut for the UFC. And I have to say, although she got essentially demolished by Fiziev, she did fairly well. She didn't get completely destroyed. Like, she actually landed a punch on Fiziev that if you really pay attention, it backed her up like, oh, probably don't mess around too much with this chick. I gotta say, Victoria isn't as bad as what I remember her being. She's a tough girl, right? She gets on top of you. It's, I hate to say it, but for sure, she seems like a soccer mom out there, just kind of pounding you out. But she's skilled. She's more skilled than that, I would say. She has some skill on the ground, and she's not completely helpless. But when it comes to Melissa Gatto, what I notice is that she gets taken down a lot, and she gives up takedowns fairly easily. And one fight to bring up is one against Sydney Rocha, which was 3 years ago. Mind you, 3 years ago is a long time. She could easily progress. I've seen her Instagram, and it looks like she's doing pretty well in learning the basics of striking and grappling. I think she is a purple belt in jiu-jitsu. But what concerned me was that Sydney Rocha, it says it's a draw with her. If you watch that fight, which Sydney Rocha herself posted on her YouTube channel, Sydney Rocha took her down and controlled her for the entire fight. And I'm watching this, right? I'm watching the fight thinking, okay, round number 1, Rocha, round number 2, Rocha. Oh shit, round number 3's coming up. Gatto must have really nearly put her into a coma for her to get a 10-8 to get it to a draw. It was not a 10-8. It was still a 10-9 for Rocha. And I'm thinking to myself, what kind of back alley bullshit is this that someone gave Gatto any rounds, thus making it a draw? So I don't know what kind of Brazilian bullshit was pulled, but that should be an official loss in my eyes. And that's the thing. But Gatto gives up takedowns. If Victoria Leonardo can get her down and just control her and avoid the submissions, because she does at least have some submissions off of her back. She was attempting triangles with Carol Rosa, and she eventually got the Kimura. I see Leonardo actually getting a decision. Now, has Gatto leveled up and her takedown defense improved? We'll have to see. But from what I saw, she gives it up really easily, and she can be easily controlled. At plus 120, I'm taking a shot on Leonardo. So I'll go with what I presume to be the tougher girl for Victoria Leonardo to win this fight by a decision. I'm going to say a 29-28. I'll give it to Leonardo by decision.
I'll keep this one short as well. I'm taking my fourth favorite Ninja Turtle in Leonardo.
You put Mikey over Leonardo?
Yeah, man. He's my favorite Ninja Turtle.
Mikey? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Mine's Donatello.
Yeah, he's my third favorite Ninja Turtle.
Oh, wow. So Mikey, Raphael, Donatello, Leonardo?
Yeah.
Mine's the opposite. Mine's Donatello, Leonardo, Raph, and then Mikey. I hate Mikey.
Yeah. Easiest way to think of this is my fourth favorite Ninja Turtle versus Melissa Meow Meow Gatto. I think she would actually be the perfect opponent for a monster rat, whatever her name was the other week. And so one thing to take note of is this is women's MMA. This is not a high level fight by any means. I'm actually taking Leonardo due to the fact that she's been more, she's fought more recently. It's been close to 3 years since Meow Meow has fought. Her record actually isn't all that great, I want to say. Although the pictures that they have on Tapology for her, she looks pretty damn hot in those pictures. But she hasn't really fought anybody of note. She has 2 draws for some reason, in these Bonito Echo fights, which I'm guessing is like some Brazilian promotion. She's been in a few Nassau cyborg events. But again, she fought Carol Rosa, which is fine. But again, this was almost 3 years ago. She's been out of action since. She's had canceled bouts against Agapova, Avila, quite a few girls for whatever reason over the years. So she's had a lot of time to rest. Who knows what she looks like realistically, physically. But we do know what Leonardo looks like. Now, this is women's MMA. We're taking the underdog here in Leonardo, betting wise. But this is women's MMA, so best bet to stay away from it. I would say, if you are betting, bet this to go the distance.
Our next bout at bantamweight, another match that should have happened a week or so ago, depending on when you're listening to this. Miles Johns versus Anderson Dos Santos. They were supposed to fight, if I recall correctly, on the Dillashaw-Sandhagen fight, but this one was taken off due to COVID protocols. I think Dos Santos, to be specific. And we've talked about this one quite a bit. Dos Santos, very aggressive, very wild, very live for a submission. And Johns, he's more of a wrestler, more of a conservative type of striker. He's not going to do anything that puts himself into much danger. He did get knocked out by Mario Bautista by a flying knee, which my initial pick was Anderson Dos Santos. You know what? If Anderson does something wild in there, he's live at a plus 165 to come back on Johns minus 200. And I'm kind of swaying back and forth now, just because if Dos Santos might have tested positive, or maybe even a false positive, something, right? Something would have caused him to not fight. At his age, it's a little concerning. He's 36 years old. Comeback on Miles Johns is 27. I'm leaning more towards Johns at this point, just because of that protocol scare. And again, it's a tough fight. And I initially picked Dos Santos because I would assume that Johns would make a mistake in there. And it's a tough one, really, still 50-50 in my opinion. I'll still go with Dos Santos. You know what? I'm not changing my fucking pick. I'll go with Dos Santos to win this one. Again, it's all based on Johns kind of making a mistake. I can see Anderson capitalizing. If he shoots in for a takedown, he'll snatch up the neck for a guillotine. If he gets complacent on the feet, because again, he's not like this crazy striker. He's not going to like throw nasty combinations, 1-2 leg kicks or shit like that. Just very basic. I can see Dos Santos catching him with something wild. So I'll go with Dos Santos to win this one. I'll say by a second round submission.
Don't have too much to add. I do remember going over this because deja vu. I believe I also picked Dos Santos. I might be wrong. I would need to go back and remember my pick, but I'm pretty sure I picked Dos Santos. And my main reasoning for that, if I recall correctly as well, is I think Dos Santos is just the wild man here. I'm picking the wild guy over, the more conservative pick. I think this is the case of like, let me try to make the comparison here of Michelle Pereira versus I don't know, like Sean Strickland, so something. if they were to match these guys up, Sean Strickland is very I want to say somewhat vanilla in there compared to somebody like Michelle Pereira, who kind of goes in there and gives people a show within a show, sort of. And I think that's what Dos Santos is probably out to do. You know what I mean? He's just one of these guys who I don't know how much longer he's going to be in the UFC, but there's guys in the UFC that, or sort of like Nate Diaz, there are guys who go in there, put on the show, win, lose, or draw. It's like they're fan favorites, kind of like Bam Bam Tuivasa, I guess to a certain extent as well. And so that's kind of where I put Anderson Dos Santos. So I'll take him by decision, but I wouldn't maybe put a TKO in the second round past him. I'd say it's less likely, but it's possible, at least in my eyes.
Our next bout at flyweight, we've got a really interesting one. We've got Manel Kape versus Ode Osbourne, and the odds currently have it minus 220 for Kape. Osbourne comes back plus 175. And I'm just going to say it. I think I'm on the Osbourne side. Call me crazy, but something's telling me that Osbourne might be the pick. We'll see, because I think he last fought, I can't remember if that Jerome Rivera fight was in bantamweight or at 125, but I'll start with Manel Kape. Manel Kape has been very underwhelming in the UFC. When we initially heard the announcement of him fighting Pantoja, it's like, oh man, he's going to come into the UFC and demonstrate that these risen guys are maybe at the same level. And he has not performed. And it's mostly been his fault. Like, he does not go after it. He seems to think that he's comfortably winning these fights, but he just kind of lays back and doesn't do enough in these fights. His last fight against Mateus Nicolau, personally, I thought he won that fight barely. I'm not saying it's a huge robbery that Mateus won it, but again, that's more so about Kape not performing to his ability. He's got great knockout power, some good jiu-jitsu, and he just decides to strike, and he doesn't even do that well. Like, I don't understand why he's not being more active, which does lead me to believe, man, he's on a 2-fight losing streak. And I know what he's capable of. This guy can knock you the fuck out. And if he decides to put it on you with his back against the cage, literally he's 1 fight away from getting kicked out of the UFC and going back to Japan, where the competition literally is easier. We'll see what happens, but something about Ode Osbourne, him fighting at 125, he is going to be the bigger guy. He's 5'7" compared to the 5'5" of Kape, and he's going to have a significant reach advantage, 72-inch reach advantage or 72-inch reach for Osbourne, 68 for Kape. And we know that Osbourne possesses the pretty solid power. I think his movement is going to be the most important thing in this fight. If he can keep Kape on the outside and just pepper him up with jabs, and his ground game is pretty solid. If I remember correctly, he is a wrestler, and his ground game's not too bad either. He got a pretty nice armbar against Armando Villarreal in the Contender Series. He's a kind of a head case, though, I will say, because when he made his debut in the UFC against Brian Keller, he's talking all this shit about, oh, it's a McGregor card, but they're going to say 10 years from now that McGregor fought on an Ode Osbourne card. So a bit of a head case with him too, like kind of full of himself, but we'll see how it turns out. I will pick the underdog, though. He's got, I think, in my opinion, the more favorable attributes. He's going to be the taller guy, the longer guy, the better price tag, the guy who's fought at a heavier weight class more recently. I just see him avoiding getting that death touch that Kape possesses, and he can edge out a decision. But you got to be minding your P's and Q's with Manel Kape, because if he does land on Osbourne, I do suspect that Osbourne's chin is not going to be the best at 125, and he can probably put his lights out. But again, we'll see how that turns out, if he even makes the weight. But I'll go with Ode Osbourne to win this one by a decision. I see him just kind of staying on the outside and picking them apart.
This one's a tough one. I'm not really too high on either guy. Yeah, I can see where you're coming from with Ode. And funny enough, No, Cape actually looks like some dude I used to listen to, but stopped. I did a second take there for a second. I was like, wait, what? I didn't know this guy was fighting. Anyway, um, yeah, funny enough, I had no idea he was from Portugal. Yeah, it's funny that they have Cape as the favorite here, which I honestly don't understand how or why. After coming off two losses in the UFC, um, I would say I think the reason that Manel is being given uh, the favoritism here, with regard to the betting line, uh, is probably due, to the guys he's fought. I'm guessing. I mean, I really can't make sense of that. A guy coming off two losses versus a guy coming off a win. How to how to explain he's being given what's the word? He's being given he's being made the favorite, the betting favorite. I mean, his last two opponents are what, 37-7, 37-7-1. Meanwhile, Odie's opponents are, less than that. 29. Yeah, Jerome Rivera and Brian Kelleher are less than that. Their records combined for less. That's the only reasoning I have. I mean, other than that, I mean, I really see no reason for making Manel the favorite here. That's kind of weird. So that alone, I think, makes Ode a value pick, meaning there's value in picking Ode just because of how the odds are currently set. So if you manage to bet on Ode before maybe money comes in, I don't anticipate a ton of money coming in on him. I believe that alone is value in the bet itself, regardless of the outcome. That's really all I have to realistically all I have to say about this fight. I'm really just looking at it, with regard to betting terms. I think Ode is the value side here. So I'll go with Ode because of that, and I'll say probably by decision. I don't think he'll have what it takes to knock out Manel. Nor do I see him submitting him. So I think it'll probably be a sparring match, and he'll probably just get the best of it at that point.
Our next bout at strawweight, we've got the return of the one and only Karolina Kowalkiewicz versus Jessica Penne. And currently the odds are a pick'em at -110, -110. And I don't know really what to say about this one. This one is this one's a trap. Like the odds for sure, if you're picking this to go over, it's maybe not even worth it. The odds are probably going to be like a -300 for it going the distance, and then Karolina comes back after training in China, and then she knocks out Jessica Penne in the first minute of the round. Who the hell knows? But for Karolina, she's on a 4-fight losing streak, and it's just been brutal to watch. Like, I like Karolina. She's so nice to look at. She backs herself up against the cage, and she winks at you during the announcing of their names. It's like, come on, man. I don't want to see her fight anymore, man. I do and I don't. I want to see her win, but realistically, is that going to happen? They're giving her Jessica Penne, so it's a possibility. But between both of these ladies, Jessica Penne has a more recent win. And with Karolina, her last loss was against Yan Xiaonan. And in that fight, her eye went googly for a couple days. And that was hard to see, man. It was really like depressing when she would talking to the camera and her eyes not being responsive. And it's like, you know what? As much as I want to see Karolina win again, I don't want her to see that win enough to have her have some permanent damage. As for Jessica Penne, I hate to say it, but I had the same relative thought about her. She fought Lupita Godinez to a split decision where she actually won that split decision. And she's 38 years old. We discussed how she had been doing multiple jobs outside of the UFC to make ends meet, and essentially how she got suspended for a long ass time. I think 4 years almost or so, to the point that we're thinking 4 years is a long ass time for someone not to come back and be fighting actively and to pick up a win, but she pulled it off by the skin of her teeth. This one's tough. I don't know how this one's going to go. All I can say is if Carolina just avoids getting her back taken, really avoids any grappling exchanges and keeps it on the outside, she can potentially win this one. Carolina's not a bad grappler. It's just, again, I know she's been fighting really good competition. Jessica Andrade knocked her out, Michelle Watterson, Alexa Grasso, and then Yan Jiaonan. Pretty solid competition, and I pick any of those ladies to beat Jessica Penne. One of them actually beat the crap out of her in Jessica Andrade. But is she the same fighter? Is she still the same package, just as she's been fighting really tough competition? Or is she completely done? And I don't really want to find out. I will pick her to win because I want her to win, not because I think she will win. I think this is a coin flip. This is a split decision waiting to happen. But I'll go with Karolina Kowalkiewicz to get a Macy Barber-esque decision win, and she'll get her win back. So hopefully she'll retire after that, and we don't have to see her take any more damage.
This is another one. I want to say I don't have too much to say here, but I actually do. Yes, this is women's MMA, and this is one of the, I would say, quintessential women's MMA fights, in that this is a coin flip fight, and the odds are reflecting that. If anything, I think the odds shouldn't have been minus 110 for each lady. I think the odds should have been like plus 200 for each one. for both. I think this should have been the first fight in the history of combat sports where each fighter is a plus money fighter. And I say that because Carolina is way past, she's only 35 years old. I guess she was easy on the eyes until one of them started, wandering off in another direction. But yeah, she's the picture that Tapology has of her is when she's holding up the Polish flag right before her last significant win against Rose Namajunas, where it was Lawler versus Woodley card. And that's when she kneed Rose into submission. That was pretty painful to watch. But anyway, there's like when thinking of certain fighters, it's sometimes difficult, to predict in terms of, that recency bias, or not even recency bias, but just bias in general. Because, I'm thinking of the Carolina, that beat the hell out of Rose, whereas, the Carolina, that's probably going to, that's going to be on this card is closer to a googly-eyed Carolina. And yeah, she may have had success in the past, but she's a mere shell of what she used to be in the past. And yeah, she's taken a beating, her last 4 fights. Not really sure what she's still doing in the UFC. I'm not sure why they haven't let her go. I guess they're hard up with, female talent in that division or something, or they just really like her and they'd like to see her finish out her contract or something. But I believe this is probably her last fight in the UFC. And I say that because this is, they set this up as, well, at least in my eyes, the non-googly ones, they're setting this up for Jessica Penne to get her second win in a row, in so many months, to kind of get back on track, maybe pay for her rent, this month and whatnot. And yeah, as not good as Jessica Penne looked in her fight, I think she just looked that much better than Carolina has looked in, maybe 5, 6 fights, however long. However long ago she actually looked good, which I honestly don't remember. I mean, she got her last win against Felice Herrig and Jody Escabel, but she didn't look good in those fights. She got a split decision with Felice. She got a decision with Jody. Before that, she got the hell beaten out of her by Claudia and Joanna. And then, it was back in 2016 that she had her, her last significant win against Rose. She does not look good in my eyes. So I'm taking Jessica Penne here. I'll take her by decision. I don't know how hard she'll be able to hit her. I mean, if she hits her hard enough, she might, knock that googly eye out of place and maybe get a TKO in the second or third round. But I'll say this is going to go the distance. But yeah, I'm taking Jessica Penne here.
Our next fight at light heavyweight, we've got a fight between Ed Short Fuse Herman and Alonzo Atomic Menifield. And the odds currently have it minus 240 for Menifield, come back on Herman, plus 195. And I hate to say it, man, but at this point, as much as I kind of want to fade Alonzo Menifield for all the times that I've backed him, even though, he's let me down, especially Devin Clark, where he just kind of just stood there and got kneed and didn't do much. And then with Ovince St. Preux, where he just walked into that left hook, it's like, oh, Alonzo, like with that fight with Devin Clark, I was so pissed, man. I was like, he gassed out punching him. Like, I know he tried to knock him out because, Devin Clark is a kind of a pushover in the division, but you couldn't get him out of there. I was pissed off, man. I was like, Minuteman Menifield is the new nickname. And for Short Fuse Herman, he's on a 3-fight win streak, but look at who he's been beating. He beat Patrick Cummings, knocked him out. He's no longer in the UFC. I think he's retired. Kadis Ibrahimov, one of the worst fighters to ever come and grace the UFC. He lost, I think, 3 in a row or 4 in a row, got kicked out, went back to Russia. Dude sucked. And for Mike Rodriguez, he got a Kimura on him, but if you guys remember, that was some Aljo level acting that we saw from Ed Herman that day, where it was technically a TKO, and referee intervened, called it a low blow. I can't remember. It doesn't matter. Gave Ed Herman more time to recover, and then he ends up snatching up that Kimura and getting that submission win. With this fight, Alonzo Menifield, it just seems he's going to blow out Ed Herman out of the water. Ed Herman's 40 years old. He did not look good against Mike Rodriguez, that is, until I guess Mike made that mistake and got submitted. That won't happen with Alonzo Menifield. Ed Herman's only way to victory is knocking out Alonzo Menifield. He will have a really tough time taking him down. The guy's an absolute fucking unit. He's a big, strong guy. And I see Alonzo knocking him out in, I want to say, the first round. I can see it happening. But what we saw in his most recent fight was that Alonzo Menifield, that punch that Ovince St. Preux used to knock him out, that left hook, transferred the power of the St. Preux choke and submitted it over to Alonzo Menifield because he got the Von Flue on Fabio Charant in his previous fight. So that was a good sign for Alonzo Menifield that he's taking his time and he's not just going to look to, knock you out, because Fabio is a pretty tough guy. I think his nickname is the Water Buffalo, and he can strike. So he didn't want to, get himself in any odd position. But when it comes to this fight with Ed Herman, I think he might take his time, not rush things, look for the knockout instead of forcing the knockout as he's tried before. So I see him winning by second round knockout. So Menifield, second round knockout, and Ed Herman, dude's been in the UFC for a long ass time. But that previous fight, it just showed that these certain level guys like Mike Rodriguez, I don't think he's a top level guy. If they're styling on you, guys like Alonzo Menifield that are only losing to pretty solid competition, excluding Devin Clark, because I think he sucks. It's time to hang him up for Ed Herman.
Yeah, I'll tell you what I'm not doing. I'm not taking short fuse, otherwise known as Stipe Miocic's bastard redheaded stepchild. Um, he is. That sounded a lot better in my head. Um, I'm not discounting his wins. Well, his last win for sure. I'm more taking a look at Ed. I guess Pee Wee Herman would have been a better nickname. I'm taking a look at his losses. I mean, this guy lost to Gian Villante, CB Dollaway, Nikita Krylov, Derek Brunson, Talis Ladies. He lost to Jacare way back when.
I think they imported him from the UFC 2 Strike Force to lose to Jacare, if I remember correctly, right?
I don't know. But this guy has lost to Aaron Simpson, Alan Belcher, Damian Maya way back when. Yeah, he's been in the UFC a long ass time. He lost to Kendall Grove, dude. That's Jesus. Yeah, so all those losses, he's not. Yeah, man. His last performance put him on at least my shit list. The same shit list as Aljamain Sterling, and who else? I'll just leave it at that. He's probably one of the most infamous actors right now in the UFC. Yeah, man, that was a weak ass performance by him. Weak ass, performance fight wise as well as acting wise. And he kind of shit on the sport by doing that to Mike Rodriguez. That was a little bitch, in my opinion. But anyway, that alone, I'm going to fade him. I am going to go with Alonzo Menifield. I'll say second round TKO.
Our next bout at lightweight, one from the gods, boys, Rafael Fiziev versus Bobby Green. This one's going to be a hell of a fight, but we've got here the odds minus 345 for Fiziev. Is it Fiziev or is it Fiziev? I keep hearing it both ways, but I prefer Fiziev. Sounds cooler. And Bobby Green comes back plus 260. Interesting bout between two guys with head movement. I can't wait. Fucking Edmund's gonna cum his pants watching this fight with all the head movement. I'm looking forward to this one a lot. We've seen what Rafael has done ever since he lost to Magomed Mustafayev with a spinning back kick, which is kind of poetic that Mustafayev got him with a spinning back kick, and Fiziev is one of the better strikers in the UFC, the Tiger Muay Thai striking coach, and he gets knocked out with a spinning back kick. But man, this guy has impressed in his last few outings, primarily his fight with Mark DeCasey. And I made the huge mistake that I initially saw this bout. I saw Mark DeCasey as a favorite, wasn't even that big of a favorite. And I saw a Fiziev as like a plus 200 or something. And I instantly just said, you know what? I'm going to go with DeCasey. I've seen him more. I like what I've seen. I paid the price in that fight because we saw what Rafael Fiziev, or is it Rafael Fiziev? Whatever, Fiziev could do in the striking realm. He just outclassed DeCasey incredibly. His takedown defense was on point. His striking, of course, was on point. His defense was excellent. Then he knocks out Moicano, and we saw what Moicano recently did to Jai Herbert, and he couldn't even do that to Fiziev. Bobby Green, on the other hand, he was on a pretty good win streak. He beat Clay Guida, Lando Venata, beat the shit out of Lando Venata. And to think that he went down in weight and beat Mike Grundy is crazy. And recently lost to Thiago Moises. A lot of people think he still won that fight. But, to be honest, he didn't really engage or steal the rounds as he needed to. It was more Thiago that stole those rounds. This is going to be fun while it lasts. I think Fiziev has the ability to knock out Bobby Green. But again, Bobby Green is very good at his defense, very good at movement. It's going to be fun to watch. I would love to see a knockout for Fiziev, but I do think that this will go to decision. It's going to be a striking battle, a guy with some of the nicest boxing in the UFC versus a guy with possibly the best kickboxing and Muay Thai in the UFC. It's going to be a treat for the eyes. I will go with Fiziev to win this one by a decision. I mainly say that I think I like Bobby Green too damn much to want to wish him to get knocked out or even predict him getting knocked out. But I'll go with Fiziev to win this one by a unanimous decision, 30-27.
Yeah, Bobby Green, it's not a race thing or anything, but I kind of see him and compare him to, what's that guy who had 0 takedowns in the middleweight division?
Zero takedowns in the middleweight division?
No, 0 takedown defense.
Oh, 0 takedown.
What's his name?
Kevin Holland.
Holland, yeah. And it's not a race thing or anything. I know that's what you guys are thinking, so get your head out of your hairy butts. It's more just his style. He has that kind of swagger in the octagon, and he actually has pretty good head movement, and pretty good timing for the counters as well. Except, maybe against Thiago Moises. But yeah, he really showed that against Lando Venata. Clay Guida, Clay is just kind of a rock'em sock'em robot, who's not as quick as he used to be. But Rafael Fiziev, he's Rafael, man. Come on. Can't call him anything else. He's on another level, man. This guy's from Kyrgyzstan. Isn't that where
Valentina?
That's where Valentina's from. Yeah, so she's her countryman. No, he's her countryman. Yeah, that's right. I think the odds are a little too high for my taste. I think they should be closer. They should have been like minus 180-ish, But man, this guy's kickboxing is out there. For sure, I think I'm gonna take him this fight. I don't think he'll be able to knock Bobby Green out, but I think he will school him. Bobby Green might get, a few things here and there. He might get a few counters here and there. But Bobby Green just doesn't have the takedown expertise. He's not the best ground guy. And not that Bobby Green is going to get embarrassed, but he's going to get schooled here for sure. Because Rafael Fiziev, man, this guy's going to take him into the matrix, so I'm taking Fiziev, Rafael. And I think after this, he's probably going to get pretty close to being in the top 10 and maybe get a top 10 opponent or, whoever's above him, hopefully.
And before we begin the main card, as always, we'd like to ask, please like, share, subscribe, leave comments. We love to read the comments. Love to respond to the comments, especially get some ones that are just, they brighten up my damn day. But yeah, leave a comment specifically as to which of these fights you're looking forward to the most. Some of these are going to be pretty damn fireworks, in my opinion. So yeah, leave a comment. Let us know what you think. And we'll begin our main card with a bout at bantamweight. We've got Song Yadong, the Kung Fu Monkey, versus Kenney. And currently the odds are near even, minus 105 for Yadong. And comeback on Casey is minus 115. This one, without doing much research on it, like I had my thought, I'm like, okay, I think I know where I'm going to go after watching tape again, getting refreshed. Like, kind of changes my opinion. And I honestly do think that these odds are pretty spot on, because I was looking to fade Kenney. But after watching his fight with Dominic Cruz again, I'm like, yeah, he didn't do too bad. Like, I know watching it live, I was like, damn, he's getting schooled by Cruz, but he didn't look terrible. And for Yadong, there's a lot to like about this guy. He's young. It almost seems like he's been 23 for 5 fucking years, but he's still 23 years old, and he trains at a Team Alpha Male. He's a very strong guy. He gets taken down. He pushes off, gets back up. Physically strong, hits hard. I think a lot of people were looking to fade him like immediately after the Marlon Vera win, where Marlon Vera even contested that he won the fight. A lot of people thought Marlon won, but it was really close. So when it came to Yadong, it's like, yeah, this guy maybe not be that great. And the losing to Kyler Phillips didn't do him a lot of favors. I think he was the favorite in that fight, and Kyler ended up just kind of beating his ass to a decision win. As for Kenney, he was on a pretty solid win streak with wins over Louis Smoka, LA Tang Hai Lee and Nathaniel Wood. Again, this is a really close one because both of these guys are relatively, or I should say, these guys are both quite aggressive. Casey Kenney moves forward, attacks a body with a left kick to the body. Song Yadong is primarily a boxer. He hits super hard. If he gets taken down by Casey Kenney, I think he has the ability to get back up. I think on paper, Casey Kenney is the better fighter because he's got the black belts in jiu-jitsu and judo, and he moves forward, kicks well. But Yadong, again, this guy has youth on his side. He trains with a good camp, especially at Team Alpha Male. They really drill your ass when it comes to submission defense, especially the guillotine. And it's a coin flip. I will pick Song to win this one. I think because he is the more powerful guy, he might be able to land the more impactful shots that will sway the judges. But it's a really close fight, in my opinion. This one's going to be really fun, a really good fight to open up the main card. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, what you think on this one. I don't have a strong opinion either way. I'm just picking Yadong because I think he can push the pace a little bit more. He can even crack Casey, not to the point of maybe getting a TKO, but to stumble him back and maybe, have him definitely lose a really close round with that impactful shot. So yeah, interested in hearing what you guys think on this one.
Here I'm taking Song Yadong. I think he's got more upside. I think he's got I think he's going to show everybody what he's got. And actually, he's at least at this point, I see that he's the betting. How do I put it? Betting wise, there's more value on Song Yadong at this point, unless more money comes in on him. But I think Casey Kenney. He doesn't do well. Not that Song Yadong is a wrestler, but working out with the Team Alpha Midget group there, those guys, drill, are probably drilling, having him. I don't think Casey Kenney's going to dominate him on the ground. So I think Song Yadong is going to have enough to, not dominate on the ground, but be fairly competitive on the ground. On the feet, I think he's got better technique. Not only that, but he's younger. He is 1 inch taller. I think that's going to be the deciding factor, that 1 inch. So I'll take Song Yadong.
Our next bout at strawweight, we've got a rematch between Angela Hill and Tecia Quintuple T Torres. Tecia, the tiny tornado Torres. Currently, the odds have it -130 for Quintuple T, and the comeback on Overkill is +110. Being that this is a rematch, I think both these ladies have been, I don't want to say talking shit back and forth on social media, but if I remember correctly, I think Angela Hill wanted the rematch. Tecia Torres didn't want the rematch. Then they booked it, and there was still some weird drama. It's a rematch. I don't know what it's doing on the main card. I will say at least these ladies have some name value. Tiny Tornado, she has been looking a bit more aggressive as of late, and that's a good sign because I always thought to myself, like, Tecia Torres has a lot of skill. She's a very strong girl. Her taekwondo is great. Her striking is very good, and her submissions are okay as well. I think she only has one finish actually two finishes now in the UFC. Used to be one. She got a choke over some chick, I can't remember, and she recently knocked out Sam Hughes, or it was a doctor stoppage. For Angela Hill, though, her thing is that she made it to the top at a certain point where she got a split decision with Claudia Gadelha, and that kind of put her as like a folk hero, like, hey, this girl grinded her way to a certain position, and they took it away from her with that split decision. Then she fights Michelle Watterson in a 5-round fight, and she lost that fight as well. Now she comes back and she gets a win over Ashley Yoder, which was fine and dandy, but Ashley Yoder is another one of these girls that she doesn't really belong in the rankings. This one, because it's a rematch, I'm gonna go with Tisha Torres again. I think she is just a more complete fighter, the better fighter everywhere. Angela Hill has made improvements, but she's 36 years old. She doesn't have much time left, and she was never as skilled as a fighter. I think she started doing Muay Thai very late in her like 20s, 24 or so. And I guess now she's finally catching up to being, I guess, skilled enough to be a UFC contender, but never one that's ever going to fight for the title. I like Angela Hill, so I kind of feel bad kind of shitting on her a little bit, but Tisha Torres is just the better fighter. At minus 130, I think it's a steal. So I'll go with Tisha Torres to win this one by, guess what? Decision.
I have to agree with you. I'm also going with the Tiny Tornado. Angela, at this point, her nickname should be Over the, because her last name is Hill. She is, wow, I thought she was 38, but it looks like she's 36, going on 38 somehow. She is, I guess, 38 in MMA years. That's what I'm thinking of. She's very entertaining as a fighter, but she never really reached that pinnacle. You know what I mean, even that split with Claudia Gadelha, that was not the same Claudia Gadelha, that fought Joanna the first or even the second time. This was a Claudia Gadelha, of the current Claudia Gadelha, who has like 2-3 minutes of gas in her tank because she's I guess she's the basic Claudia Gadelha because she spends more time on social media and she does training nowadays. So yeah, I'm gonna put it on the Tiny Tornado. She looks a little bit better at this point. I mean, she's I don't know if she'll ever get a title shot, and if she does, I don't think she'll beat, who's the strawweight champ? Rose. Rose is the champ, right? Yeah?
Yes, she is.
Of another division. Yeah, I don't think, actually Tisha has, funny enough, Tisha, yeah, she actually did beat Rose
years
in
ago.
2013.
Yeah,
in 2013 in Invicta.
I was actually at that fight, dude.
Oh,
I was there. I was like, hey, Iso.
That's funny. She beat the hell out of Paige VanZant before the fight before that. And yeah, she's got, a lot on her resume. And she actually already beat Angie in 2015. She had a bad stretch from 2017 through 2019, but she hopped back on the W pony last year, winning twice. And I think she'll continue it here. I think, yeah, she's... I'll take her by decision, but this is women's MMA. Anything could happen. However, I am pretty... I don't want to say confident. I'm pretty sure this is actually just going to go to a decision. Anyway, I don't see either one finishing the other. So I'll go with Tisha by decision.
Our next fight at welterweight, I am looking forward to this one a lot. Vicente the Silent Assassin Luque versus Maverick Michael Chiesa. The odds are currently minus 140 for Luque. The comeback on Chiesa is plus 120. And to be honest, I honestly thought the odds were going to be the reverse. I thought Chiesa was going to be the favorite. I don't know why. I just had a feeling it would be. So I'm really glad. Well, not necessarily glad, but I'm happy to see that Vicente Luque has got some respect, but it sucks that he's not plus money because I'm just going to come out and say it. I think he's going to win. I think he's going to not TKO or knockout Michael Chiesa, but I think he's going to submit Michael Chiesa with a, a Darce choke, possibly even the Anaconda, whatever Michael Chiesa gives him. Because after doing some research on both of these guys, I've built up enough knowledge over the years of both of these guys to know what their game plan is going to be. And it's not rocket science. Michael Chiesa is going to try to take down Vicente Luque, and Vicente Luque is going to try to knock the beard off of Michael Chiesa's face. And if you look at the wins for both of these guys, it kind of tells the story of what's really going on. Michael Chiesa, he last fought at lightweight in what year? 2018, and he lost to Anthony Pettis after getting dropped, and then he got submitted with a triangle armbar. And if we look at the latest loss for Vicente Luque, he lost to Stephen Thompson. And I've kind of come up with a weird formula that Vicente Luque loses to strikers with decent enough takedown defense, and Michael Chiesa loses to strikers with good submissions. And if you look at it, his first loss was a Darce choke loss to Jorge Masvidal back in 2013 in his home in his home state. And oh man, that's when I really started to love Masvidal. He's just like listening to the boos as what's his name? Chiesa taps out a second before the round ends, and then he gets TKO cut via doctor stoppage by Joe Lozon, who I guess you can consider another guy with striking and good submissions. He gets rear naked choked by Kevin Lee, another guy who is a decent enough striker with submissions. Anthony Pettis, striker with submissions, and each and every guy that Chiesa's fought as of late isn't really. He doesn't really qualify, I would say, in that category, at least not anymore. Carlos Condit, horrible takedown defense. Diego Sanchez, not going to talk about that one. Rafael Dos Anjos, he just got grounded out. He couldn't do much. And Chiesa just got exhausted. Neil Magny, essentially the same thing, got grounded out. Did not have the adequate takedown defense nor the power to really fend off and get Chiesa off of him. Vicente Luque is going to crack Michael Chiesa to the point that he's going to shoot for a desperate takedown and he's going to get snatched up with a Darce or an anaconda choke. Vicente Luque's takedown defense has been ever improving since he first fought in the UFC. I think he lost to Michael Graves, where he gave up takedowns easily. His last loss again to Wonder Boy, it's not a terrible loss. You know, he did really well in the first round, and Wonder Boy just does what Wonder Boy does. He really uses your striking abilities against you. If you're a good striker, you're just not used to fighting a guy like Wonder Boy, especially in his prime. I don't think he's in his prime anymore. Vicente Luque just demonstrates more of a possibility to finish the fight, opposed to Michael Chiesa just kind of laying on top of you and hoping to get an arm, or you turning over and giving up your neck. Luque is not a small guy. I think he's going to have more than enough strength and takedown defense to fend off Michael Chiesa. The thing about Luque, though, is that he does get cracked a lot. He absorbs a lot of punches, and Chiesa is kind of a sneaky guy. He might be able to crack Luque. If that happens, if Michael Chiesa hurts or even TKOs or knocks out Luque, I don't know what I'll do with my life. I think I'm completely broken at this point. But yeah, I think Chiesa has to take it to the ground. I don't think Luque is going to allow that. I think if he does try to shoot for a takedown, he's going to catch a uppercut. If he does try to do a body lock, I think Luque's pretty crafty enough. The younger guy in Vicente Luque, the stronger guy, in my opinion, the stronger striker. I hate to say it, but better submission guy too. I'll go with Vicente Luque, second round submission. I'm going to say a variation of the Darce Anaconda.
I'm actually going with the underdog here. I'm going with Chiesa. And I'm not really adding too much more to that. I'm taking him by decision. I think he's just gonna sit on Luque. I think Luque is just gonna give him a mustache ride for three rounds. I don't think. I mean, this has the potential to be an exciting fight, but unfortunately, it involves Chiesa. Chiesa isn't really, I would say, he's kind of a buzzkill in terms of turning what could potentially be an exciting fight into a Chiesa fight. And Chiesa is not really the most exciting guy. He's really, I guess, a white version of Kamaru Usman with less striking. And I really don't know how else to describe his fighting style. That's what it is. That's what he does. And I think that's what he's going to do against Vicente Luque. And thus Vicente, has crazy transitions from, um, you know, uh, uh, blocking his takedown attempts, either smashing him on the ground or getting into side control and smashing him that way or something, or just blocking all his takedown attempts and forcing him to stand up with him. But I don't see it happening. I think, part of the other thing is Chiesa. I think he's really, once he decides to go for takedowns, he's eventually going to get him. It takes a high level guy, high level wrestler like Kevin Lee or something to really out Chiesa. But I don't think Luke is that high level. I mean, he's a fairly good grappler, but I don't think as far as offensive and switching from offensive to defensive or defensive to offensive wrestling, I don't believe he's going to have what it takes to out Chiesa. So I'm going with Chiesa by decision in this one.
Our next bout and co-main event at bantamweight, Jose Aldo versus Pedro Munhoz. And the odds currently have it minus 140 for Aldo. Comeback on Munhoz is plus 120. And it's crazy to think that Pedro Munhoz is older than Jose Aldo by a month. They're both 34. They're both Brazilian. They're both, I want to say, almost mirror images of each other, except that, of course, Jose Aldo has seen the very top of his sport, of the sport, I should say. And Pedro Munhoz is, kind of, I don't want to say floundered in bantamweight, but he's just not ever reached that certain level in the division where he would contend for a title. Jose Aldo's already fought for the bantamweight title, lost to Peter Yan, did fairly well in that fight, except that, what later rounds he got absolutely demolished. And he just recently beat Marlon Vera, and he did what he had to do. He pulled out that jiu-jitsu card out of his back pocket and just kind of controlled Marlon. As for Pedro, he battered Jimmy Rivera pretty badly using the leg kicks and completely just stifled him to the point that he couldn't do anything. He could not really engage. He was just so afraid of getting kicked in the leg, and it led him to a decision win. And this is an interesting bout. I really want to know what you guys think on this one because I don't have a solid read on who's going to win. I'm leaning Aldo just because of the overall experience. He's got 29-7, or that's his record, I should say, versus the 19-5 in Pedro Munhoz. And I hate to use this MMA math, but I think it makes a lot of sense that Jose Aldo beat Frankie Edgar and Pedro Munhoz could not beat Frankie Edgar. Or if you want to say that Pedro Munhoz beat Frankie Edgar in just a shitty decision, he allowed himself to lose a fight on paper to Frankie Edgar. And that is concerning. I think it's going to be an Aldo win. I think he's just the better fighter skill-wise. It's just that at this age, I've seen Pedro Munhoz perform better at bantamweight, even at 34. Jose Aldo, on the other hand, he's been through a lot. He's had a lot of damage. It's tough to say. It's tough to say if he's even the same guy. I'll go with Jose Aldo to win just based on the fact that, he has the 5-inch reach advantage and he's got the 1-inch height advantage. And we'll see if this becomes a kicking match, probably the dick measuring contest as to who has the better kicks. It'll be fun. We'll see what happens, but I'll go with Aldo to win this one by decision.
I'm also going with Aldo by decision here. Aldo just has the sharper striking, I want to say. Pedro really shit the bed with Frankie Edgar, as you mentioned, 2 fights back. And Jimmy Rivera did as well. Jimmy Rivera dropped the ball. I had him winning that. But anyway, Aldo is 34, in real life. but he's closer to like 40, in MMA years. I mean, Aldo's gone through so many wars. And he's seen it all. Pedro is nothing really realistically bringing nothing to the table that Aldo hasn't seen before, dealt with before. Aldo, he has, I think, still some of the best kicks in the game, for sure. Some of the best kicks in that weight class, bantamweight. And for sure, he has sharper striking than Munoz. Had I not looked at the age or you brought it up, I would have said, Munoz has the age, advantage in this fight, but it's like, oh no, he just looks younger because, like I said, Aldo's been through wars throughout the years. So I'm taking Aldo, for his experience. I think he has better striking overall. I don't think Pedro's going to take this to the ground. And if he does, Aldo's pretty good about jumping back up on his feet. I think Aldo, for the most part, does a good job of controlling the octagon, whether he's in the center or he has his back to the cage. So I'm going with Aldo unless Pedro somehow decides or decided to correct what he everything that went wrong in that Frankie Edgar fight, which is learning how to control, learning how to adjust, in the fight. I don't think that's going to happen. I think Aldo's going to not a similar approach to Frankie Edgar, but just do what he does, and Munoz just isn't really going to know how to handle it.
In our main event, we've got a bout between Derrick the Black Beast Lewis and Cyril Gane. And currently the odds have it at minus 350 for Cyril Gane. Holy shit. It's the first time I'm reading the odds. And plus 270 for Derrick Lewis. Interim title fight, baby. And this one really snuck up on me because I'm just checking Twitter one day. I rarely check Twitter if it's not a fight night. And then there it is, like Cyril Gane's fighting Derrick Lewis for the interim title. And all I can think of is like, wow, they really, really want to push the Cyril Gane versus Francis Ngannou fight, teammate versus teammate, both from France, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, damn, I can see the fucking headlines already. But Derrick Lewis, man, they're giving him his UFC title fight in Houston, which is amazing because I met him in Houston. Really nice guy. I had him sign some stuff for me. And one of the things that I usually do when I have contenders sign autographs, I give them the chance. I'm like, hey, do you want to sign it in gold or do you want to sign it in silver? With Derrick Lewis, I gave him the gold one. I'm like, hey, dude, sign it in gold because you know what's coming next. He's like, all right, baby, almost time. I'm like, oh, shit. Derrick Lewis, such a nice guy, man. Like in person, super, super relatable. He's asking me like, hey, man, where you get your shirt from? I'm like, what the fuck are you asking me, bro? It's like I'm trying to be like, you got a long line. I'm not going to ask you any questions. Just sign my shit. I'll get out of your hair. He's asking me questions. I'm like, oh shit, Derrick Lewis, you're the man. So yeah, I love Derrick Lewis, man. I've been, I don't want to say I've always been a fan of him. I'm not going to sit here and tell you, oh yeah, I've been a fan of Derrick Lewis for the longest time. I fucking hated Derrick Lewis at one point. Made his UFC debut, was doing the championship belt motion sign, like, oh, I want my belt. I'm like, dude, you ain't fucking close to that belt. And as of late, he has demonstrated a respect for the sport. He was talking mad shit about the sport, like, oh, I'm a striker, this and that. I think he even said that if he becomes UFC champion, the rest of the heavyweights should be ashamed of themselves because he's not a real fighter or something along those lines. Not that he's not a real fighter, but he's not like super skilled. And I think Derrick Lewis of 2021, I don't think that's accurate at all. The guy is very skilled and he is putting in a lot of work. And that really is highlighted in his fight with Curtis Blaydes. Curtis Blaydes is another one of these guys who kind of a one-trick pony takedown guy, lay on top of you. His striking has progressed, and it showed against Derrick Lewis. Curtis Blaydes was winning those exchanges, won the first round pretty comfortably. And I have to say, though, Curtis Blaydes made a huge mistake by telegraphing that takedown. Derrick Lewis was waiting for it. and he telegraphed that takedown and he landed into that uppercut, and it just crushed my $100 bet on Curtis Blades. I was pissed that Curtis just went full retard and went for that obvious takedown on the power side of Derrick Lewis. Neither here nor there, though. But the thing is, Derrick Lewis, he is a very skilled heavyweight. He has been progressing. He's no longer just some brawler. His ability to get up off the ground, making jiu-jitsu absolutely fucking useless, is ridiculous. It's insane. But the turnaround on Cyril Gane, guy is undefeated 9-0. Every single level up in competition, he has passed with flying colors. And it's crazy to think that the same guy who submitted Dontel Mays a year and 8 months ago, and super surprised me because when he came into the UFC and I heard this is Francis Ngannou's training partner, primary training partner and sparring partner, I'm like, oh, this guy must be a great striker. He was. And then I'm thinking, okay, maybe bet the knockout prop. He ends up winning by submission. I'm like, okay, this guy is something special. He decisions Tanner Boser. He knocks out Junior Dos Santos. He decisions Rosenstrike. And then he just recently decisioned Alexander Volkov. And this Alexander Volkov fight, a lot of people were on Volkov. Even I made the comparison of like, man, this guy's got way more experience. He's a longer guy. I can see him winning. And he goes out there and clearly wins that fight by decision. I hate to say this, though, because I'm going to keep going around in circles talking and describing these guys. I think Cyril Gane's going to win this one, and it pains me to say it. I like both of these guys, but I don't like the thought of Derrick Lewis losing in his hometown. It's just that I hate to say this as well. I don't think Derrick Lewis will ever touch the title, because there's one thing about Derrick Lewis that is a huge red flag, is that anytime he fights solid strikers, he loses a fight. And I'll read off some of these names to you. Derrick Lewis's last loss was to Junior Dos Santos, and this was back in 2019. This was around the time Junior was kind of washed up, and that was actually after he lost to Daniel Cormier. And Daniel Cormier is on a different level, so he's not necessarily just considered a striker. He's a god tier level fighter. He lost by rear naked choke. He was losing to Volkov, and then he ended up, knocking him out. I'm not counting the Francis Ngannou fight. Marcin Tybura is not really much of a striker. Mark Hunt, he loses to Mark Hunt via punches in 2017. He loses to Sean Jordan, Matt Mitrione. It's one of these types of fights that if you are afraid to fight him in the stand-up, you're going to telegraph takedowns, and you're going to get caught by something. And Cyril Gane is an excellent striker, and I can easily see him basically dancing around him, landing kicks to the body, landing kicks to the legs, high kicks, elbows up tight, and just being faster than Derrick Lewis and easily winning a decision. But I will actually go with Cyril Gane to win by a 4th round knockout. I think after a while, he's going to really break down Derrick Lewis and then finish him. Derrick Lewis has been finished multiple times. And as much as I love the guy, and as much as I would like to see him get a knockout win and then have the belt wrapped around him in his hometown, it's a tough task, man. Like, if he can pull it off, no damn doubt about it, those odds are fantastic. Even if you add on top of that a knockout prop, because we all know damn well Derrick Lewis ain't winning a decision against Cyril Gane. His only chance is knockout. So it might be worth a shot, but I think Cyril Gane is going to attack the belly of Derrick Lewis, the belly of the beast, if you will, and eventually get the later TKO. I'm going to say round number 4. Derrick Lewis has been hurt to the body multiple times by good kickers. I see Cyril Gane landing a nasty kick to the body and then finishing him off with strikes, possibly standing. Derrick Lewis kind of kneels over a lot, unless, that's his game plan. He tried that against Junior, I think, where he clutched his belly and then he swung for the fences. But I think Cyril Gane, he's a very smart guy. He's a very smart striker. He knows what he's going to do to win. At minus 350, not the best. Might he actually pick the 4th round TKO prop? but I think Cyril Gane wins this one. I hate to say it again, rather comfortably. So Cyril Gane to win by a 4th round TKO.
Yeah, you took my thunder there. My heart, is with Derrick Lewis, but after taking a look at the matchup, I have to go with Cyril because I think he is more well-rounded, not just being more well-rounded on the feet and on the ground, but I think he's more well-rounded with his attacks as well. He has a lot more ways to win, whether it be punches, elbows, knees, or his deadly kicks. He has, is it Muay Thai or kickboxing? I think his style is kickboxing more than Muay Thai. Yeah.
I think Savat. If being French, I'm going to say it's Savat. I have no idea. All I know is that he kicked pretty. So,
yeah, he kicks pretty damn hard. He's very accurate with his kicks, but more so than that, he is. If it goes to the ground, he is pretty damn good on the ground for a heavyweight. Not that it's going to go to the ground for a long time. I think with Derrick Lewis, just because Derrick, tends to get up pretty quick even when he's tired. Derrick's path to victory is getting on the inside, or catching Cyril at an angle, and knocking his ass out. Meanwhile, Cyril has, his path to victory is just avoiding those heavy hands or avoiding as many as he can, and just piecing them apart, until, like you said, he attacks his doughy middle, and either gets him with maybe a liver shot or just a straight gut shot, and that's been known to weigh heavily, so to speak, on the Black Beast. I know he's a professional, so I don't think he'll get too caught up, with emotions fighting in Houston, but I know that's going to be special for him. But yeah, it's hard to go against Cyril at this point. But I would like to see, Derrick get that rematch with what's his face, Ngannou, and get the belt from Ngannou. I think that'll be pretty damn sweet. It would be pretty sweet if they did that in Houston as well.
Yeah. What did he call Ngannou? The African booty scratcher or something?
I don't know.
Oh, what a shitty first fight, though. Oh my god.
Yeah. First fight sucked. I know he's not going to fight like that. I know that he knows that I know that everybody else knows that there's a lot riding on this. So I don't think he's going to be hesitant. So, like I said, my heart is with Derrick, but realistically, I have to go with Ngannou just based off his skill. But then again, I went with Volkov that one time, with the Black Beast, and he just knocked his ass out, at the end of the fight. So you never know, it could happen. So I'll tentatively go with Cyril. I'll wait to see what the weigh-ins look like. But we all realistically know what Derrick Lewis is going to look like, and you know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna just go with Derrick Lewis by KO in the 3rd round. Changed my mind. I'm putting it all on.
Very ballsy.
Putting my life savings on Derrick Lewis. No, I'm kidding. I'm staying away from this fight at all costs because it's a very risky fight. I think there are better spots on this card to lay your money on. But this one's very, very risky just because of Derrick Lewis is the X factor here. If what's his name, Simon Cowell, was a judge, for the UFC or MMA, he'd be like, Derrick Lewis, you are the X factor, or you have the X factor. Anyway, that would make sense for those of you who watch that sort of show. I've seen clips of it. I've never really seen an entire X Factor show. I don't even know if he was on X Factor, or what is he on?
He was an American Idol.
Okay, that one, yeah.
I don't know if he's been. I don't know what the X Factor is.
I think I remember seeing clips of it or somewhere on YouTube or something at some point.
I was
I
gonna.
don't know if it's the same. I don't know if it's the same thing. Um. Anyway, yeah. So that's my thing. That's my pick. I'm going with Derrick. I'm following my heart, and I'm really hoping he does win, and that'll be a big ass fight. Him versus Ngannou for the title, especially if they do it in Houston or wherever they do it. I hope they do it in Houston for him. I don't think they do it in France or even in where the hell is Ngannou from?
Cameroon.
Cameroon. I don't think they do it in Cameroon for Ngannou. So I know they've been asking for UFC Africa for a while, but I don't think that's happening anytime soon.
And those have been our picks for UFC 265, Lewis versus Gane. Please like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. That's been Johnny and Jose from TigerBomb MMA, and we'll catch you at the next fight.